Girl, stop playing.
Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Stop Playing podcast. It's your favorite homegirl, Coriel, here to encourage you to stop playing with your potential and start working for what you want in life and in love. Y'all already know that I believe you can make the money and you can get the honey. You can have it all as long as you are willing to work. And it's my goal to bring you the information and the conversation to help you do just that. This episode is brought to you by Work University, which is the first Black woman-owned online trade school that is on a mission to connect Black women all around the world with the curriculum, the content, and the community that you need to turn your existing skills into new streams of income. For more information on how you can get in where you fit in, check the show notes below or log on to workuniversity.com. So today I am super excited about this conversation. This is a much needed conversation on a topic that we all should be talking about. Today's guest is Destini Ann Davis, who is a certified parent coach and the author of Very Intentional Parenting. Welcome to the show, Destini.
Hey, welcome to you. I'm so excited to be in this space and to have this conversation and just to share a little bit with your community. This is great. I love having discussions, especially with women that look like me and on the same page in regards to balance. So that's wonderful.
Yes. So like I mentioned earlier, I am excited about this conversation. I mean, we have all types of conversations here on the podcast, but parenting is one of those topics that I feel like we don't talk about enough, even though everybody is having babies, right? We're not always having the conversation to help us prepare to do that. And so I've been having this conversation for years, even before I became a mother myself, because I did notice that not only are we not talking about it, but we're not doing any type of prep, even though most of us aspire to become moms. And so I want to jump right into it. I know that you are the author, like I said, of Very Intentional Parenting. What was your motivation behind writing the book?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have read all the books. I'm very well studied in parenting, and the majority of the literature on parenting is how to get our kids to do this. And it's very child focused. And so I wanted to write a book that was parent focused and focusing on the ways that we're not showing up as leaders, the things that we're not healing, and the things that are getting in the way of us parenting the way we actually desire to parent. And so I'd say 3/4 of the book is focused on the parent, their needs, their beliefs, their feelings, etc.
I love that. And I know that you said that before writing the book, I did some digging, did my research, but you said before you wrote the book, you made some of like the typical parenting mistakes. What would you consider to be like some of those typical mistakes?
Yeah, so I wasn't necessarily like authoritarian. I wasn't spanking. I don't really yell very often. I was more on the other side of that. Just, I don't want no smoke. I don't want no issues because I had a very traumatic childhood with the yelling and the spanking. So I was just like, I knew I wasn't going to do that. But I always say that the opposite of unhealthy isn't always healthy. And so I was like, I did not want my kid to have big emotions. I didn't want her to feel the things I felt. Sad, frustrated, alone. And so I went out of my way and really, it was a detriment to her because she wasn't growing in discipline. She wasn't growing in confidence. She wasn't able to regulate her emotions. And, if she felt something, it was a big deal because she rarely got to feel sad. And so those were the mistakes that I made. And then also we also fall into habits that our parents, had. And it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. But we fall into it if we're not conscious. And so I had those issues as well.
Yeah. So I love that you are obviously on this topic. If you're going to be like an authority on this topic or even a leader in this space, you kind of have to be honest, hopefully, about, some of the challenge that you've had personally. And I think that our generation as a whole, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think so many of us have had such toxic upbringings or just challenges, in our childhood that we're like, okay, we're going to do the complete opposite of what our parents did to us or did for us. And a lot of times, that can be good and it can be bad because we can go completely opposite where it's like, okay, we're not spanking, but then sometimes not spanking turns into not disciplining. And
Mhm.
so I think, what you said and what you stand for around like being very intentional is super important, because we a lot of times just go through life, we go through the seasons, we go through the challenges, the lessons learned, but not even always learning the lessons.
Yeah.
We don't always even stop to reflect on the root of, why we are who we are, why we're showing up the way we're showing up, why we respond to certain things the way we respond. And then we have kids. And if we're not intentional, and if we haven't had those conversations with ourselves or with the therapist or, with somebody, then we a lot of times are just passing on those same like generational traumas, that we went through. So I love that you are, literally like opening up the doors or opening up this can of worms to have these conversations. Because one thing that I know is like a hot topic or something we always talk about is like daddy issues.
Yeah.
And I am of the belief that although we may be dealing with daddy issues, like these mamas have done a number on us as well, that we don't, nobody want to talk about the mama, but I be talking about the mamas, because your mother is literally, a lot of times, we hear about the single family homes, and a lot of times those single family statistics is the mom being the single parent. So everybody might not have had a father in their household, which means the majority of us had a mama that we were, dealing with. And so what has been your experience? Because I know these are conversations you're having often, but what has been your experience with like the mommy issues? Not necessarily yours, but typical mommy issues that we're dealing with.
Yeah, so I experienced, not mine per se, because my mom was like Olivia Pope, Martha Stewart, just all the things. And of course she came with her stuff, but for the most part, she was amazing. But I hear a lot of like moms not being able to take accountability and just going into what you said, a lot of guilt tripping. I raised you, so you should do this. A lot of that, I would say, is the majority of it, not being able to take accountability, which is why reflection is so important. Because I say, if you practice gaslighting your child their entire childhood, you practice, well, I did this because you made me mad, or I did this, I'm sorry, I had a bad day, whatever it is. If you do that for 18 years, but then when they become conscious and their voice is a little bit stronger and they sound like an adult and they're like, Mom, you should have did this, you're going to continue what you've been doing. And so I think that's why it's important to do what you said, to reflect, to come back and apologize, regardless of how old your kid is, because what you practice is what you perfect. And I hear that all the time. My mom cannot take accountability. She does what she wants to do. She doesn't respect my parenting. She doesn't listen to me.
And I guess it's gaslighting. I feel like gaslighting is a term that, came out of thin air, I don't know, over the last couple of years. It's kind of like narcissist. Like it's one of those terms that's thrown around so much. But one of the other things that I hear often is like, you bring up something to your mom, and I'm, 30 plus. So you bring up something to and I'm speaking, to people obviously that are in that same age range as well. But you bring up something that you may have been through, and your parent like brushes it off, or they minimize your experience, or they deny that it ever happened, or they make you feel like, well, you took it that way, but that's not the way it happened. Or, it's kind of like that apology where you're not really apologizing. You're more so saying, I'm sorry you feel that way, versus I'm sorry, for what I did. And so I think, like you said, a lot of times our parents weren't reflective. Like, I don't know how old you are, how old your parents are, but I feel like our parents' generation, they weren't having these conversations. They weren't.
Ain't no manual. That's it. That was the response. Ain't no manual.
Ain't no manual. I'm just doing the best I can. And a lot of times their best I can was compared to like some real crazy stuff that their parents were doing. So they're like, as long as I'm doing better than them, as long as I ain't, doing what my mama did to me, that I'm doing well. And they might have been doing better, but it still might not have been the best. So besides like reflection and therapy, because I'm a huge advocate for therapy, what are some things that we could do like to be more intentional about not just passing on these same toxic behaviors or traumas to our children unknowingly?
I think one of the biggest issues, especially since a lot of us are living in survival mode, is we are so desperate to control our kids because we don't have as much control of our own lives. That if you went to a job you hate, you in a relationship with somebody that's not honoring you, your friends don't honor you, don't hear you, you spend all day doing stuff that you don't really enjoy, by the time you get home in the one piece that you can actually tell it what to do, how to do it, you're going to do that. Mm-hmm. So I found that the more I got in control of my mental state, my confidence, my kid-free weekends, like my business, the things that make me feel good, you just naturally, that's going to flow into the relationship with your child. I don't have to control my kids. I can work with and collaborate with them because I'm honoring myself and I don't feel like I need them to fill that cup of control for me.
So how do we navigate or balance between having that type of relationship with your child where they can talk to you and they can come to you and they can be open and honest with you, but still having boundaries? Because, you know, there's a whole like my baby is my best friend thing, which I don't subscribe to that because I think that can be unhealthy. You know, that can definitely be an unhealthy exchange or unhealthy relationship or a dependent, you know, relationship. How do you navigate though the balance between you still being the parent, but your child still feeling like they have a voice?
Yeah, so I think that one of the biggest things that we don't do coming into parenting is understanding brain development. And so there are certain boundaries that are appropriate at a certain age that aren't appropriate at another age. And so majority of the time when we punish, we're confusing a rule with the boundary. And we're having expectations of our kids that are beyond their development. And so if I keep telling you, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, and you keep doing it, but I don't have a boundary, the only other thing that I can do is punish you to make you stop doing it. And so I see those videos on TikTok all the time. And it's like the kid filled the bathroom up with bubbles. And then people in the comments like, I would have beat their tail. And it's like, the child is 4. They need a boundary. They should not be in the bathroom by themselves long enough to even do that. And so I think that's where the balance for me is that I'm going to have compassionate boundaries. And when you're frustrated with the boundaries, I'm not going to gaslight you and make you think that there's something wrong with your experience. It makes sense that you're sad, that you can't be in here by yourself. I get it. I understand. And it is what it is.
So it sounds like more explaining and validating your experience. Like, I understand you feel this way, but not trying to put them in an adult's place. Like, you should understand this because you understand it as the adult.
Exactly. And so I start off just developmentally when they're under that age of 7, they need more boundaries, right? But they want to be empowered. So you give them choices. We still leaving. You still got to put your clothes on, but what shoes do you want to wear? And as they get older, like that 7 to 12, now we can creatively problem solve. I don't have to give you choices. You can add input. And beyond that, I can back up a little bit. I'm going to step in with boundaries when you get it wrong, but we don't go through that process. A lot of times it's just, I told you to do it. So like you said, you should do it. You know better. They don't know better. They just got here.
Listen, so my son is 18 months. Okay. And I've been saying like when he turned 1, he started acting 2. You know, like it has been, but the closer we get to 2, I'm just like,
terrible.
Baby, what is happening here? But I used to be a second and third grade teacher, and I do feel like that was God giving me a little bit of a head start and of some preparation and a lot more patience than I probably would not have had, because I don't, and you know, he's only 18 months, so I ain't made it that far yet, but I don't ever feel myself like getting mad about the things that he's doing. I do feel like I have that voice of reason in my head that's like, he don't know any better. You know, he's literally figuring this thing out. But my question to you is, and I ask all the mamas this, what do you really do when your child is out in public and they cutting up? Because before I had kids, let me just tell y'all, before I had kids, it's very easy. Like you said, the people on TikTok, it's very easy to be like, you need to get that. You know, like you need, that you need to get. Now that I have a child, that boy do what he want to do. What do you do, Destini? What do you do when they cutting up in public?
I'm very much aware that when they're having a tantrum, it can lead me to have a tantrum. And so the more you become aware of the fact that I'm being dysregulated right now, I'm literally doing what they're doing, but in adult form, then you can find solutions. Like I feel like our behaviors, I even feel like this is true. Our behaviors are just a communication of what we're needing, what we're feeling, and what we're believing. So we tap into that first, we can make conscious decisions. So if I'm out and I'm in the grocery store and my child is acting a fool, before I even deal with that, I'm like, what am I feeling? I'm embarrassed right now. I need to be able to admit that. I'm embarrassed. This is uncomfortable. I'm believing that I look like a bad mom, that my kid is bad, all of that. If I'm aware of that judgment, then I can say, you know what? I'm going to respond based off of everything that I just assessed so that my emotions aren't leading my response. So in that situation, this is developmentally appropriate for them to act a fool. If I'm embarrassed, let me deal with my embarrassment. Maybe I need to take them outside. This is my stuff, right? Maybe I need a second. Let's go outside. And so that's what I would do before. Now I'm just like, I'm embarrassed. So what? These people don't know me. I feel like I'm not a good mom, but I am. And so that's what I would do. And then I regulate myself and help my child regulate.
I just be like, please stop.
Please stop.
I mean, let's talk about it. You know, he's saying words, but he ain't speaking in sentences. You know, like, so it's really me just like talking to myself like,
yes.
Why are you doing this? You know, like, this isn't a good idea. You know, and then I just feel like I'm that mama that I used to be looking at like, girl, you don't yank him up. But I'm not about to yank up my 18-month-old and he don't, like, what's that going to do? Make him cry more.
It sounds like you just practicing regulating yourself because sometimes we don't have the answers. And I'm like, when I don't know what to do or how to teach you, at least I want to show you how to respond to stressful situations. This is stressful as hell. How you acting is stressful. And you see me, I'm not screaming. I'm not acting a monkey. And I'm modeling this still with boundaries. Okay. You're not about to hit me. All of those things. You're not about to run around the store. I'm going to hold you, but I'm calm. That translates. It's hard. It is hard, but it's a practice, just like everything else.
Okay, so is this gentle parenting? Is me not going off and shake? That's not gentle parenting? Okay, so what is
I thought you said is that just for parenting?
No. Is it gentle parenting? Because that's the thing, right? Gentle parenting. That is like, I don't know if it's a new concept. It's new to me, maybe because I just became a parent. But like, how do you define gentle parenting?
Yeah, so I always say just very easily, I put my foot down. I just do it gently. Like, I don't have to make you feel scared, angry. Like, I don't have to force anything. I work with my kids. Everybody's opinion matters. And so there's power over, which is I'm a power over you, which is a lot of TikTok as parents. Then there's power under, which is I'm going to let you power over me. And then there's power with, where everybody's needs matter. But my brain's a little more developed than yours. So I'm going to step in with boundaries until you learn this habit. For me, that's what gentle parenting is. It's not either or. It's boundaries and compassion at the same time.
Okay. Power with. Okay. I'm going to be remembering this. I'm going to be saying this to myself. Like, okay, power with. I don't have to power over. Because I think old school parenting is power over. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
My parents, for sure.
Yeah, that is just like there was no other option. So I think that as each generation becomes parents, I definitely see, and I know that you see some consistent like changes over the years. And so I don't know though, and you tell me your thoughts. Are we, and I don't know if it's a better, but we're definitely doing things differently, right? Because gentle parenting was definitely not a thing for the majority of us with our parents. Do you think that we are learning the lessons and doing a disservice to our children, or is it a benefit to them that we are trying to be more conscious and trying to have more conversation? Because our parents, and I'm lumping them all, like I know that your mama was great, but I'm lumping them all together in the sense of like our parents were very much so because I said so.
Yeah.
Where I don't see my peers as that. Like you said, we're much more like explaining and having conversations and allowing our children to have voices. Is that doing them a disservice in some way, do you think? Because life is not a lot of explanation. You know, like life is tough still. So when they leave our houses, are they going to be prepared?
I love when people say that. I think that life has been tough for a lot of us because of the ways that we were raised. Of course, there's things outside of our experience, but if you constantly see how an adult responds to stress with either fight or flight, either I'm gonna beat you or I'm gonna give you the silent treatment, right? Then when you experience challenges in life, you're gonna respond the same way. You're gonna get the same feedback. And so I always say, I want to prepare my kids for the kind of life that I wish that I had, or the kind of life that I'm pressing towards right now. And so people always say, yeah, but people are not gonna be gentle with your kids. Yes, they will. And if they're not, that's not people for them. I want my kids to, when you're in close proximity with somebody, I want my kids to know how their boss should talk to them. I want my daughters to know how a man should talk to them, how their friends should talk to them. Yeah, we experience people, but your close relationship, I'm their mom. I want to model how somebody that loves you should interact with you. And then, y'all go to school. I say this all the time about my co-parent. Look, your dad is different than me. You're in his house right now. You need to respect that. That's what respect looks like. But when you with me, your safe space, people, And so I want my kids to go out into the world expecting to be treated a certain way by the people that are closest to them, and to know when something does not feel okay.
And to be able to communicate that.
Exactly.
And that's a big part too, because even if and this is like way left field, but even when we get into conversations with adults that have experienced like sexual trauma as children, a lot of times it went like they didn't speak about it until they became adults, because they didn't have that safe space to talk about it. They didn't feel like their parents would, be non-judgmental for them. They didn't feel like they could have a voice and be believable, with their experiences. And so I do think in that sense, it's beyond important to teach your children about boundaries and having a voice and speaking up for yourself and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And like you said, I love that you said, like, my home is the safe space, because a lot of us didn't grow up. We didn't even know, like, safe space wasn't even in our universe. That didn't, your room might have been your safe space. Like,
it wasn't a safe space in mine. It wasn't my room. Not in my parents' house. It wasn't my room. This is a room that you've written. Like,
did you close your door? Was your parents like, you're not closing the door up in my house?
Yeah, that happened before. I wasn't allowed to close my door that was a punishment that I had for a while. I didn't have a door on the hinges for a little bit.
I was gonna say, okay, that was another thing. Okay.
The door off the hinges. Right. But so we didn't get to set boundaries. You know what I'm saying? We didn't get to choose who we hugged. We didn't get to choose how much we ate. Like, we didn't get to choose anything. We couldn't set boundaries. So how do we know how to do that? How? And it translates to, again, the control. You stick in that job, in that relationship, because you don't know how to communicate and follow through with boundaries, because you didn't get to. And then you put all these unnecessary, arbitrary boundaries on your child.
It's so funny that you mentioned not even being able to control what you eat, because that was me and my mother's like first thing. It's like, I'm not eating this food. I don't like it. And I was the kid, I will sit here all night long. No, literally, I will sit here all night long. My daddy would come and try to, sneak some off my plate. I would be trying to feed it to the dog. That was my thing. And it's like, so with my child, I always said, like, I'm not making you eat something, that just to me is like beyond like psychotic, that I'm going to force something down your throat that you obviously are not interested in eating. So, you might go to sleep hungry, that might be a thing, but you're right. The control, it's like, you want to be in control of every single area of my life, because now as a grown adult woman, I realized you were not in control of your life. You were not in control of your things. So and these are conversations that I have with my homegirls all the time. Like, we all got some mommy issues. Okay. Me and my friend circle, we be just comparing our mommy issues, but being able to evolve and mature into a grown woman and realize that your mother, although she's your mother, she's still just a woman. She's still just having a human experience. She was dealing with all of the things while trying to raise you. And that is even a challenge. Like, and that might be part of forgiveness, maybe, like realizing that she wasn't trying to intentionally do you wrong. She was just doing the best that she could. And that is a struggle to admit sometimes.
Man, that's 1,000%. And I think that the antidote to that really is recognizing what our values are as women, and not inherited values or what we think we should value because of what another woman is valuing. Because there are going to be things that you like, no, this isn't okay in my house. but where is it coming from? Like, I used to be
why?
Right. I used to be so particular about what they wore. And for somebody, that may be a value for them, but they're embodying it, right? They're modeling it. So particular about y'all making y'all bed every day. And my bed is not made every day, but I have this ideal of what I should value. And that then we get up into our adult years and we're like, it's something ain't fitting, something's not matching. And I don't want that to happen with my kids. So that's another question we should constantly be reflecting on is, does this really matter to me? Because if it did, if my child is 10, they might get it right by now. Like, if the way you speak to people, respectful communication, if it really mattered to me, I'd be embodying it. And it wouldn't be such a challenge for my child right now. So I either need to start embodying it or I need to give my child grace and focus on other things, one or the other.
Yeah, that is that's maturity. That's evolution, like realizing the root of, again, like, why do you care so much about this? Why is this such a big deal to you? Where did this even come from? Yeah. You know, like, where did this, because if we really start peeling back the layers, a lot of the things that we believe, a lot of the things that we are doing, they're coming from like generations before us, you know, things that we don't even know why we're doing. We're literally just regurgitating what has been done to us, what has been told to us, what has been taught to us. And then we're going to just unconsciously pass that on to our children, you know, not even knowing. And, you know, it's just a vicious cycle. So I love that you are doing this work. I do want to ask you one more question though, because I feel like in the age of social media, where everybody's judging I got two questions actually, where everybody's judging all the things, even when you're doing something so positive, like, you know, having this messaging around, you know, intentional parenting. My first question is, do you ever get negative feedback from people who are like, you know, what is the negative side of this work that you're doing?
Besides the fact that people want me to beat my kids so bad. Oh, they want me to beat my kids so bad. Like, besides that, I think that oftentimes people have this perception of who my kids are without meeting them because of the way that I parent. And so it's like, I hear stuff like, your kids are going to grow up and be mass shooters. Your kids are probably terrible at school. Like, how do you let your daughter cuss? I bet she's the worst kid ever. All this stuff that isn't true, is literally couldn't be further from the truth. I get that a lot. And then, of course, I get people like, how are you going to tell me how to parent? And everybody parents different, etc. And my message is very much, this is what I do. I'm very much, when I say intentional, I mean, knowing your values, knowing what matters to you and parenting from that space. So I don't think there's any right or wrong way to parent other than hitting kids. That's the hill that I stand on. At majority of the time, I just say, thank you for sharing, but you're not gonna come on my page and tell me that it's okay to hit kids. Me personally, that's the one thing in parenting that we just gonna go back and forth about. That's majority of what I get. The criticism is that my kids must be like bad as hell.
Wait, I got a pause for the cause. You let your babies cuss? Let's talk about it. What's your thing? What's your philosophy? Because this is a conversation I've had with my husband, and I just want to know what your philosophy is.
So the 4-year-old, no, absolutely not. And we don't even cuss around her. It's to the point where if I slip up and cuss, she'd be like, Mom, don't say that around me because I'm going to say it. Like, she'll literally say it. The 4-year-old cannot cuss because she needs boundaries. Developmentally, she's a different child. My 10-year-old understands situational appropriateness, but I know that that's not a particular value for me as a mom. I cuss all the time. My 10-year-old is going to hear me cuss. So rather than saying, you know, it's not right to cuss or whatever, what I have expressed to her and she's developmentally aware of is, yeah, this is a safe space. We're in our house. If you want to say that X, Y, and Z, it does not bother me as a mom. However, if we go out to the family reunion and we at church X, Y, and Z and you cuss, you're no longer going to be able to do that. And so it depends on the child. It depends on where they're at developmentally. It depends on what you value. If you value that kind of language not being okay and there's no appropriate time to do it, that makes sense. It don't bother me. It would bother me if the 4-year-old did it at school. So she's not there yet. But my 10-year-old, what? If she heard kids cussing in public, anytime she does, she's just like, oh my God, Mom, like, what did you hear what they said? Like, it's a big deal. So every kid is different and every parent's values are different.
Okay, I love it. I love it. Okay, last question for real, for real. Because of the work you do you feel pressure to be like a perfect parent?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I wasn't expecting you to say that.
I feel pressure from Instagram and then from my kids. Like they know that I do this work. So anytime,
I'm not mama.
yeah, my daughter will be like, that wasn't gentle. Like she says something like that. But I get the whole mom goals conversation all the time on Instagram, and I hate that so much. Like, don't put me on a pedestal as a mom because I'm just out here doing my best as well.
Yeah.
And I'm self-aware, but if you see me in the grocery store having a panic attack because my child is on the floor, don't be surprised.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
the fact, yeah, that's definitely something that I get all the time. I'm like, please, y'all not about to Whitney Houston me, okay? I tell people all the time, I want to dance with somebody Whitney, but I can be crackhead Whitney too. So if you see me being crackhead Whitney,
mind your business.
mind your business. Exactly.
I love it. Okay, so I definitely encourage all of my listeners and viewers to make sure they grab a copy of your book. Please let them know where they can do that, how they can follow you on social media, and where they can find you online.
Absolutely. So my social media, everything is Destini Ann, from TikTok to Instagram. It's all Destini.Ann. And then Very Intentional Parenting, you can literally buy it anywhere that books are sold. So Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, all places.
All the places. Check her out. Even if you are not a parent yet, like we prepare for everything else that we aspire to do and be in life. Why not prepare for the most important role?
Yeah.
Why not? You know, we're all about getting information, literally information and the information that we need to be able to live the life that we were created to live. So let's be intentional about how we are preparing to do that. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Stop Playing podcast. Destini, I have enjoyed you. Y'all make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. Love y'all.
Bye.